right, we are live. Matt is out for a day or two, and today we have Landon of the West from X. He's a Rebellionaire creator, big supporter of Rebellionaire and Spaces. If you're active in Spaces on X, you probably heard his voice. And let's dive into the Model Q. I like to call it the Tesla Q, Landon. Can we call it the Tesla Q?
I think we can. I mean, it's going to be a private joke in-house, but wouldn't that be great? Because they say it's never coming. It's never coming. Tesla will never bring out a smaller car. So yeah,
Vaporware.
I'm in. Anything but the Model 2.
Vaporware. So you had a spicy take yesterday that it is in production now.
We've all heard the $7,500 tax credit news ending September 30th. So yes, Elon told us in the earnings call that they should be in production. They will be in production by the second half of the year. And you know, we listen to it and we take it into our own words and we say, oh, the smaller model is not here. It wasn't here in the first half of the year. Well, it says in production by the first half of the year. So they can bring it out anytime. I would not be surprised if it were today or tomorrow, but I found some reasons to believe that it might be as late as October 1st.
Okay. Tell us more about it. Connect the dots.
Right. Well, that $7,500 federal tax credit is gone again. And I say again because we've had tax credits on EVs in the past, right? The 200,000 unit production limit was hit by Tesla for the previous tax credit in, I think, 2019, and they phased it out to where the credit got lower and lower. But this year, Congress has voted it out in the BBB. They say it will end September 30th. And so my question for the Tesla universe is this. If Tesla's ready to deliver a smaller Model Y, a compact car, a Tesla Q, if they're ready now, which they may be or soon, what are the benefits to releasing that now when there is still a federal tax credit available? Well, I don't think it would qualify, not based on battery, but just based on time. So other vehicles like the Highland upgrade on Model 3 and the Cybertruck specifically did not have FSD when they were released. So that's a component in describing how things are maybe not 100% right away. They also didn't qualify for the federal tax credit. That's something the EPA has to run through their secret process and approve. So finally, Tesla's 2025 model, Tesla Cybertruck, was approved for the credit. Of course, we saw Model 3 approved for the credit, but it can take 6 months or more to get on that EPA list. And I don't think that could happen before the credit expires in September 30th. So maybe Tesla should release the vehicle after that rather than muddy the waters and have the Tesla Model Y, which is the world's best-selling car. I would think they would keep the Tesla Q off the sales chart until October and sell the hell out of the Model Ys for the rest of the summer because they do have the tax credit. What do you think?
Well, I love that you called it the Tesla Q. So I'm your biggest fan right now. Yeah, I think that would make sense. They could also put in big red letters does not qualify for the 7,500 tax credit or will not qualify in time. But I think that could confuse people for sure. So let's. What else is there to this to the decision framework here? I think it's we've all known for a while Tesla would not do an announcement of this in advance because it has the potential to Osborne the 3 and Y.
We love that term, and as tech bros, right? If we don't work in Osborning into a conversation, we're not doing our job. but but you're right. And so I go to Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, I think, if he didn't coin the term, he was certainly around when Osborne Computer had a very successful model, and they said, hey, just wait till you see what we got for next year, and everybody stopped buying. But Steve Jobs proved that you can Osborne your own products fairly effectively. We had an iPod in the early 2000s. It was not the first digital music player on the market, but they came in and they made a nice one. And then the iPhone came along and they said, who in the world will buy an iPod when you've already got an iPhone? Well, big price difference there, but
Yeah.
people did stop buying the iPod and they continued to buy the iPhone. And that's okay to Osborne your own product and phase it out. Remember a couple of years ago when people were saying, oh, the Model Y is so successful, they'll probably discontinue the Model 3. Well, that could still happen, but that would be kind of Osborning our own product with
Yeah.
Tesla.
Yeah. We did hear that the Model 3 would become irrelevant, but it may be a while before that. I think the key distinction here is that the new product needs to be ready to sell and ready to ship to customers. Whereas the Osborne Corporation, they were a year away, and they said how great their new chip was. We also saw for NVIDIA in 2022, they went from the 3000 series graphics card to the 4000. It was hinted in early spring. So like the specs leaked, and then people assumed that the data center chip for that was going to be a similar increase in power and effectiveness. So then they got Osborne to the point where they had to bribe their suppliers and OEMs to stop making the old model and to pay for any promises they made as far as purchases. So that was a powerful Osborning that happened. So they really you want to guard these secrets really well. So like, if in fact Tesla is working on the Tesla Q, then it's great that they haven't leaked, what it's going to be, so that consumers can be ready and put off their purchases if they would be in that ballpark.
Boy, I sure agree with you. And we know the car business is hard, right? I mean, there's a lot of moving parts. Elon tells us all the time there's only 2 manufacturers that have survived starting new car companies in the last now 125 years, and that's Ford Motor Company and Tesla Motors. And so we know the car business is hard. It's important to not make it harder on yourself than you have to. But we have seen some signs, haven't we, Bradford, right? We've seen Joe Tegtmeyer. He's got the drone out at Giga Austin. And we've seen, what is that lineup of like 30 tractor trailers empty, ready to go to shipped cars that just is sitting there over in the corner, hasn't moved in a couple of weeks? What about these new doors that they've built into the side of the factory that look just like the other doors where Tesla Model Ys are pumped out?
All the black curtains too.
The black curtains. What do you make of that? You had a question a week ago about that. Why not just use clear plastic?
Yeah. Well, so some people in the comments, so there's these black curtains at Giga Texas, and there's parts of it that are pretty lengthy. They're covering it up because they realize that Joe Tegtmeyer in early dawn shots can see into the factory. So you can literally see into it. So there's a question is like, is Tesla hiding something from others seeing from the outside, or is it used for paint? So some people think it could be for paint, where they've seen other like dark blue things thrown up if you're painting like some machinery or whatever. So lots of little hints here and there that we're seeing. So I want to share a little bit about Landon, because we're going to share a puzzle about him. But Landon has a lot of experience with Legacy Auto as a car dealer for 20 years. Don't hold it
Yeah,
against them. Please don't try to sell me on your extended warranty or service plan while we're here, Landon. But also 10 years as a financial advisor, retired from both, but Tesla lover and love to talk about technology and Apple and all that. Maybe we could show Landon's bio on X right now. So, Landon, you might have to read this aloud because there's some pretty big words here. You say meme like no one is reading, a parody account, Lone Star to Mountain Star. I like that.
So I wrote, should I stop you? Go ahead and read the whole thing. I don't
Yeah,
have it
you
in
could
front
do
of
the
me,
rest.
I don't have it in front of me, but it talks about, yeah. Oh, so I spelled parody wrong. Did you catch that? So,
Ooh. So
oh,
that might be a hint. That might be a hint.
parody, means when things are equal instead
Mhm.
of, yeah. Well,
Mhm.
my journey from Lone Star to Mountain Star is my sesquicentennial journey. Wow, yeah. Sesquicentennial is an anniversary of 150 years. And I just thought it was funny. I lived in Texas the year that Texas, I think it was 1985, Texas turned 150 years. And so that was the Texas sesquicentennial. And next year in 2026, I'm living in Colorado now. Colorado will have its 150th anniversary. So I'm the only person in history to live through two sesquicentennials. How about that? That's pretty impressive, I would think.
I agree.
What's the next thing on my bio? I don't have it pulled up here.
Well, I'll say this. I was born in 1976, so that's a something or other.
It's a bicentennial. Yeah, that's right. You
There
got
we
it.
go. So another big one was Elon told Dan Ives to shut up. So if you know what the joke is with Landon's bio or the puzzle, drop it in the comments. Hit Landon up on X. But let's see the thing from
Waxaca. The
so
city that I put on there is the riddle. Yes, go ahead.
yesterday before this tweet from Dan Ives, he had something else, and I think he's laying the groundwork for a price target cut, because he does this when the stock's down, he likes to lower his price target. When it bounces back up, he likes to raise it back up. That's just kind of how Dan Ives is, and now he's imposing some restrictions on Musk, saying the board of directors should do this and that with Elon.
Mm-hmm.
Give him votes so XAI can merge with Tesla, which I don't think that's a good reason for Elon to have votes. Elon just wants to have votes. We need to get him a pay package too.
Right, the 25%. I think we want Elon to have 25% of Tesla ownership because he told us that that's the level to where he wouldn't have to worry about the company being taken over by bad actors. And so that
Yeah.
makes some sense to me. I'm generally favorable impression from Dan Ives. I'm out of that business, but we've known a lot of guys like him, and I would say in a complementary manner that he is an entertainer. I believe
Mhm.
he is educated and experienced in trading and analyzing companies. But I think when you're on TV every day, we've got a lot of names that we've talked to. I've stopped watching CNBC every day. There was a point in my life
Right.
that I would have it on the TV in my dealership 24 hours a day, thinking I was getting really smart. But I realized that it was a product, right? It's an entertainment product. And there's some stuff you can learn there, don't get me wrong. But when I look at Dan Ives, I think he seems like a pretty good guy. But you talked about it at the beginning. When does he come up with a price target that's not right after an earnings call or right after other people have put up their targets? And
Mhm.
no shade on Dan Ives, doing a great job, doing his thing. More power to him. It's up to us to not blindly follow these entertainers or even the educated so-called experts. We need to
Yeah.
do our own research, Bradford. And I think you and I have the same kind of philosophy. We should be involved in companies that we love, that we find very, very interesting, or that we think will make our lives better. So I don't look to analysts necessarily to tell me what stock to buy.
Hmm. He's saying that Musk should clock in and out as part of his pay package. So fill out a time slip and get Twitter police for his political endeavors or something.
Well, the third one first, he's already got the SEC, middle initial stand for Elon, I believe. He's got that SEC still on him. He can't just post anything that he wants to. He's supposed to have the chairman sitting with him every time he posts. Isn't that about right? Well, so Dan Ives, what are you doing here, man? Do you think you know better? I mean, this is why we're starting to get into the better than smarter than Elon disease kind of thing here. And as
Yeah.
far as the punching in, the punching out, I am absolutely up in arms every time somebody says Elon needs to get back to Tesla. Well, I think Elon is superhuman. Maybe he's not an
Yeah.
alien. Maybe he's actually 100% human, but the guy works like an animal. He sleeps 4 hours a night. He's running 4 or 5 corporations successfully. So don't judge Elon based on your own work habits. I think Dan is telling us here that he needs to be held accountable for his hours at work. Does it sound like that to you, Bradford? What is your take?
That Dan needs to be held accountable.
Well, why would Dan say this? Does he think that Elon can't just manage himself?
Yeah. Yeah. Elon, he works differently now, but he's brilliant at putting teams together, recruiting, casting a vision, taking a hammer to any roadblocks in the business, any bottlenecks, whatever those bottlenecks are. Elon's really good at getting rid of them, whether it's a call to NVIDIA or enabling an engineer one way or another. Also, Tesla, I haven't seen the latest stats, but I think they employ over 140,000 people worldwide. Uh,
Mm.
so Elon's more like overseeing things. So he's not like going to be doing something on a daily basis. And um, so I think he's committing the right amount of time. I believe Tesla's on the right path. We'll see what's how quickly autonomy scales from here, or Optimus. But one of the exciting things is like people totally forgot about Elon saying, "Oh, I just did a design review of the latest Optimus, and it's looking like chef's kiss." So like, basically, to me, that says that they approved the changes for the Gen 3 Optimus and
Hmm.
are soon going to be getting those changes out to suppliers for whatever edits they need to make, and getting a agreement from the suppliers for them to do that. There was also in that rumor, there was like a sequence of rumors that they have made 1,000 Optimus, 1,000 Gen
Mm.
2 Optimus. That sounded too big for me to believe.
Oh, I don't know. It sounds, I wouldn't guess at that number either. But then there was the kind of hit piece, right, that says the Optimus line is shut down and production is stopped. Panic, panic. There's the Optimus design is faulty. Well, Elon just told us, and I always go back to Elon's words, because maybe he has a different time frame than we consider acceptable. But when we go to Elon's words, I think we can get the best intentions there. And what he said on the most recent call is that, somebody asked him, I think one of the institutional investors said, is Optimus pencils down
Mhm.
on production? And he laughed, and he shared a laugh with the other executives there. And he says, no, Optimus is not pencils down. Optimus is a work in progress, and we will build a lot of robots before we get to a third generation type of design. And here we're coming. We're going to see version 3 here pretty soon. I
Mhm.
still don't think that version 3 will be pencils down. Tesla's famous with its automobiles for making
Right.
changes on the line, right? Having the engineers working in-house with the assembly folks, and they can just walk right down there and say, here's what we're doing next, instead of waiting for the next model year. So I think the same for Optimus.
Yeah. They do need to get comfortable with the design so they can scale it out to Tesla factories, maybe then Tesla suppliers, um, and then really begin to iterate it. I think that the main thing they've been waiting on is getting super comfortable with the hands, and having 22 degrees of freedom hands allows them to mimic the human hand. So if you can do that with training and the first person view and like all the sensor data, I should do it over here. All the sensor data with the hand's super important to getting work done.
What is the Cybertruck symbol we're seeing everywhere? I don't remember. No, that's not it either. Yeah, Optimus is coming fast. And what do you think is going to be the first thing that they do with the Generation 3? Will we see videos of Optimus working more in the factory like some of the videos, or will we see outside where he's running down the slope and slips a little bit? What's most important to you to decide that this is a leap forward?
I'd want to hear about like how many are working in the factory. I don't know how much Tesla is going to advertise that because I do think they want to manage public reception of it. They don't want to upset their own workers. So if people working at the
Oh.
Tesla factory are like, "Oh, you got to work alongside this Tesla Optimus," but then the Optimus is learning their job.
Right. Didn't he get a question of that in the from the employee meeting that he just had? And
Hmm.
the woman stood up and say, "Are these going to take my job?" And
Hmm.
he says what he feels is the natural transition is that no, these will allow you to become manager and you will oversee these 3 or 4 Optimus robots. So
Hmm.
there's going to be, I think there's going to be a lengthy transition time, but it is important to all of us. I think we see jobs every day now, and some of us are starting to just immediately ask ourselves, is this a legitimate job in 15 years? Is this going to exist? I've got a 17-year-old son, I've got a 20-year-old son, and I'm curious, what are they going to choose as a profession with all of the changes that we're seeing that are imminent?
Maybe it's a robot shepherd.
It sure could be. I just hope that it accomplishes Elon's goals of being less dangerous, less monotonous, less tedious.
Hmm.
And so we don't have the burnout that you see these people working in horrible, horrible jobs. I'm watching this new show, and this poor guy has got to work in this chicken fast food place for 10 hours a day, and then he just stumbles home and falls asleep. This is not what humanity should have as an existence.
Right.
We've we've evolved to where we can have nicer lives than these, and I hope Optimus helps the rest of our society move along and do more things. What about just raising families? How
Hmm.
much time have we turned away from our families that we can refocus on when Optimus is doing our fast food chicken job?
Yeah. I would not wish a logistics job on my two daughters. So like those those tough jobs that are at UPS or FedEx or Amazon. Amazon's almost gotten rid of all the humans, but I still think there's humans, but they're like measuring their actions per minute. Like it's almost like a StarCraft game where it's like actions per minute that you got to do to like be an elite StarCraft player. You got to do it super fast, like pumping out your units so you can fight the battle. But with Amazon, they're tracking like how many packages are you doing per minute, and they're evaluating there. So
Right.
I do think this is something they need to automate, and I my vision for it is that the robots are going to start out at that core that's boring and repetitive, stressful on the body, and then they'll begin to expand from there. But like the humans are going to feed the robots and assist the robots where they're needed. The robots may be telling them what to do or where they're needed most, but over time, the robots will take more jobs, and humans will be on the periphery. So like eventually we'll need, some kind of robot tax, or just be sure we have our profit tax where there's robots operating in order to make this work down the road.
Who gets the money?
Well,
I mean,
I
the
think
government? Do you
I
think?
think
Do
it
you
should
think
go to
that's?
like some kind of basic income, whether
Yes.
that's
Yes.
I don't know how you call it, but yeah.
Right.
Um,
Not just a basic income, but abundance for all, Elon says, is what we've
that's
moved to.
right.
And that abundance sounds better than basic, so that'll work.
All right, let's talk about autonomy and GDP. So Meyer Thacker, he's a big fan of Tesla Semi. Um, Tesla Semi is a great way to most effectively use batteries, to use the batteries to fuel sustainable transportation. Also, the robotaxi as well. So batteries that are in use every day throughout the day. So what Meyer says here is Elon Musk is free to do whatever he wants, but I cannot understand how anything could be more effective at taming long-term debt of the United States than building out autonomy. So millions of autonomous Tesla semi trucks, you can run them in convoys through Pikes Peak and the mountains of Colorado near you, Landon. Um, and then you have drivers around your hubs where the semis drive on the spokes, and you have your drivers at the hubs that pick them up and drive them to their final destination, or handle things from there. What do you think about the Tesla Semi and potential here?
I love that Tesla Semi. I mean, we've seen it for a number of years. So the bears want to say it's already a failure. It's already been delayed for 6 years. No, Tesla does things and they do it right. They do it a little bit like Apple Computer did back in the day. Did Apple, innovate? Did Apple invent the smartphone? No, of course they did not. Well, Tesla didn't invent the semi or even the electric semi. There's electric
Mm,
semis in Europe and other things that are in development. So that's worthy to mention. But I love the Tesla Semi because Tesla is expert. Tesla is job one on efficiency. Everything they do is to make something sustainable, efficient, and easy to build, easy to scale, and that means faster to profitability.
mm,
So we've seen these Tesla semis being hand built pretty much, hand built in Nevada, and partnerships with Pepsi, Frito-Lay, and others. The list of people that are working with Tesla right now on Tesla Semi testing is growing every week. And so
yeah,
that's exciting. So they didn't just take an existing semi, and this is what Peterbilt and some of the other manufacturers have toyed with, is you take an existing platform and you throw a bunch of batteries in it. Take out that big, heavy diesel engine and put in, but how hard could it be, right? Well, it is hard. I mean,
yeah,
that's why the F-150 Lightning is going to be replaced by a clean sheet of paper F-150 from Ford in the coming years. But I love the Tesla Semi. It's proven to be remarkable. 500 miles of towing at 81,000 pounds.
right.
That is a true semi. That is true performance. Now, you mentioned I-70 in Colorado that goes over the Continental Divide, Glenwood Canyon, Vail Pass, all of these names that you've heard, and they close it down all the time for weather. And a
Mm,
lot of times they're closing it down because the semis are not built for that. They're not built for those inclines, they're not built for the declines, and they're not built for the traction.
mm,
So what we see is the roads don't always close just because of the weather, but these tractor trailers, and they're doing good work. They're doing American work. Don't get me wrong. All of our goods in this country are delivered by rail or by truck. And it's a lot of trucks out there doing the work. So they're trying to do this stretch of I-70 in Colorado, and they get in trouble. And they get in trouble every day. Rain, shine, snow, sleet, hail, what have you. And Tesla Semi is coming to the market to solve that problem. Not only is it electric, not only is it efficient, but it has computer technology that's specifically designed to prevent the jackknifing.
Hmm.
That's where these trucks get in trouble, and that's what closes the interstate for days at a time, because they can clear snow pretty quickly, but it's tough to clear these broken, crashed up semis that are spilling potato chips all over the road. So I do love Tesla Semi. Bring it on. I think I-70 in Colorado may be the final boss.
And yeah, literally, you don't need to worry about the brakes because the motor does the braking when you're heading down the mountain. And like gearing up, like it doesn't need to gear up or whatever. So like it's gonna chew and spit out mountains for breakfast.
It sure is. So bring on those mega chargers in the I-70 corridor, and we're happy for Tesla to ship goods and ship Tesla vehicles all across our beautiful Colorado state.
I don't know if we know like the real reason why the semi took forever to get done. So Xander Sky is commenting. He says, "Love me some semi." He is a semi reservation holder. I hope they didn't like cancel on him.
Yeah, he's got it locked in at $100,000, I think, right? Wouldn't he?
I think it's 180, but yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
he's still got it in there. Unfortunately, like the day after he did it, they took it off, so like you had to have some kind of commercial contact. But Xander's going to use it. I think it could be great for mobile homes,
Mm-hmm.
for traveling the United States. I wonder if besides the batteries, one reason why the semi took a little longer is you need a different type of charging. So you need the mega charger. You probably need to pair your charging depot with mega packs, and that can be expensive. Just buying one mega pack is $1 million. So I think maybe one thing that has delayed it a little bit is maybe the cost was a little higher than Tesla bulls were thinking. It wasn't just a truck you're paying for, but you need to get the chargers in place and the mega packs.
Right. Well, let's talk about those batteries for a minute, because I think that the 2170s that are in the Tesla Semi were maybe one of their first few options. But I think everybody expected 4680s, but
Mm-hmm.
they have a great deal with Panasonic. Panasonic has a factory in the Tesla factory in Sparks, Nevada. They've
Mm-hmm.
been great partners. And so they're putting the 2170 in. But when this Tesla Semi was announced in about 2019, and then or the Cybertruck was announced in 2019 and
Mm-hmm.
delivered in 2023, Tesla said in the earnings call, Elon talked about batteries. He says, we could build the Cybertruck now in 2022, but it is more prudent to put those batteries in Model Ys, because you can sell a hell of a lot of more Model Ys than you can semis, and the profit difference doesn't add up. So I like the choice he made, and look what happened. Tesla Model Y is the best-selling vehicle in the world. Now back to Tesla Semi using the 2170s.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty much the same answer, even though the batteries are not 4680. When you have Tesla Semi, that if a Model 3 has, I'm not remembering the number, but it's like 3,000 individual cylindrical units of 2170s in a Model 3, and that's an 82 kilowatt hour battery pack, and the
Mm-hmm.
Tesla Semi is in the neighborhood of 1,000. So do you want to put all of the batteries in the Tesla Semi, or do you want to keep cranking out the Model Ys and the Model 3s that are using that battery? I think that's the choice they made.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about Grok. Grok 4 is coming out in a less than 48 hours. Yep.
Right, right. Big announcement. That's cool. I love it. This is what we want is communication. It makes our lives easier when we're talking about this stuff all day. So we're not just pulling things out of our hat to speculate on what's going to happen next with Grok, because we want Grok. We've got Grok 3 now, maybe it's Grok 3.5 now. We're going to call it Grok 4. Well, this is not our first rodeo. We've heard Elon announce things. Oh, yeah, it's coming very soon. This one will be out very soon, 2 weeks. But so it's great to have an announcement event to say, hey, we're going to talk about Grok 4. He doesn't say in that announcement that it's going to go into the vehicles, but we're looking very closely at when Grok might be integrated into Tesla vehicles.
Mhm.
And Green the Only, he's got root access to some Tesla hardware and he reads the software. So he says Grok is coming to Tesla cars. Do you feel like that'll be a big part of the announcement?
That'd be pretty exciting if it did. I was testing out the robotaxi in Austin, and it's sad you couldn't join me for that, but um,
Thanks for the invitation.
I'm
That would have
pretty
been fun.
hardcore. So, but
Yes,
one
you
of the
are.
things I did was I had Grok act like a tour guide while I was in the robotaxi, so to tell me about the area that I was in South Austin. But then, not only about places, but some of the history, like what's a piece of history in rock and roll. So supposedly Lyle Levitt, he had some all nighter he played somewhere, and there's some. It wasn't specific to South Austin, but there are some stories about comedy that I asked about, like what's the most cringe like comedy moments in Austin.
That's a fun use. I've done that too. So you have like cell service and you're just using Grok on your
Mhm.
phone.
Yeah.
Right. I was driving through Vail recently and I remembered there's an Olympic ski jump on one of the mountains.
Hmm.
And there's never been Olympics in Vail, so it's not an Olympic ski jump, but you take my meaning. And so I was able to ask Grok, hey, why is this big ski jump in Vail, Colorado? And it was great. It went into all of the Nordic events and championships that they've had in that area.
Well.
I'm going to do that too. Let me ask you a question from the regulator's perspective,
Hmm.
right? They don't want us messing with the screen and the radio and the navigation all the time. Will Grok be a distraction? Should NHTSA ban Grok in Teslas? Oh God, put that up. There's your opener, right? That's our clickbait. NHTSA bans Grok in Tesla because it's too
Hmm.
distracting. But no, I don't feel that way. What is your other experience using
Well, I think
Grok?
it would be good to keep people's eyes off the screen, keep their eyes up on the road. Grok could even, gently bully or push you into keeping your eyes on the screen on the road.
Oh,
Yeah,
another piece of the nanny state.
yeah. I think allegedly about a third of rideshare riders want to talk with someone in the car, and about two-thirds want a quiet ride where they don't talk to the driver, like of an Uber or Lyft. So I think it would be good to have Grok there for the people who want to talk during their ride in the robotaxi. And depending on how long your ride is, you could do the local guide, you can do local news, some entertainment, uh,
Oh,
local news, but like world news. You can do entertainment, but if it's a longer trip, you can have Grok tell you some fiction. That's one of my favorite uses, where I'm into a TV series and I might
mhm.
ask Grok to tell me about a scene. I'll engage voice mode, and it does a really good job of it. It's shocking how good it is, but you could also learn something on a long trip, so you could use
I
that.
like this idea. Let's
Mhm.
flesh this out for a minute. So we've seen all our friends get into robo-taxis. You've been in robo-taxis extensively in the last 2 weeks here. So would it be something like you open the door and instead of the safety monitor that's going away, asking to see your app or asking to see the phone or thing, maybe so you hear Grok when you open the door, Grok says, "Welcome, come on in." And then Grok says, I'm confirming the address of your destination. And the Grok says, it's currently 99 degrees and 99% humidity here in Austin. And then then Grok could say, would you like to mute? Would you like me to mute for the rest of your drive? Because I mean, you said that some people don't
Yeah.
like it. And if not, so is that that's the kind of experience I could get behind. I think that'd be
Yeah.
fun. I'll tell you a quick
And
story.
you could connect your things too. So like if it's Omar in there, it could tell Omar like, hey, this tweet of yours is going viral right now or whatever.
It can have, if it has Waymo's records, it could say, Omar, we see that you've been responsible for some inappropriate behavior in the past in Waymo's. So please refrain from ... in our vehicle. Right, right. Well, so in 1980s, I'm in visiting New York City as a kid with my mom, and we get in a taxi, and there is this staticky, squawky metal speaker that's just been installed in the back seat. And we asked the cabbie, we said, what the heck is this thing? And he says, oh, I've got it disabled because it drives everybody nuts. I'll plug it in for you. He plugs in the speaker box. He says, we're supposed to put this. Mayor Ed Koch says we've got to put these in all because we're rebranding New York City. And so he plugs this thing in, and it's like Gilbert Gottfried. I can't do a Gilbert Gottfried impression, but you know, he's like, welcome to New York City. If you want to know more about the area, I'm going to tell you. And it went on, and he unplugged it again. So that's the last thing that we want Grok to do, I think. We want to have that mute feature, please.
Yeah, that is key. So yeah, Grok in the car would be great. That's a great story. Was it Gilbert Gottfried or was it Mayor Koch?
I think Mayor Koch demanded it happen.
All
I
right.
mean, how much do they pay these people, right? These celebrities get paid to do this kind of thing.
So Lucid, they may have done it going downhill, but 749 miles without a charging stop, probably downhill in the mountains of Germany or Sweden and Germany. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's great. Let me ask you this. Do you know offhand, Bradford, what is the top speed record at Bonneville Salt Flats? I don't know. You don't know, right? So what is this? This is the top range record. You know, and it doesn't apply to anybody's lives. It might apply to 5% of people's lives, but we're biological human beings, so we eventually have to stop. I assume they don't have catheter setups in the vehicle. Do we want that? No, we don't want that. I need to stop, and I'm comfortable stopping when I drive my Teslas about every 100 miles. That's 2.5 hours, something like that. That's what my body wants. That's what I want to do to stretch out this aging back and neck. You know, take a break. This is what experts recommend we do when we're driving. So what are you going to do with 700 miles? I mean, Josh West 247, he's up in the top of Canada right now. And he's trying to find places to go in his long range, his Model S Plaid. But what else are you going to do other than these sound bites about range? Because range is not a factor for 85-90% of our North American society. What do you think?
98%, I'll say that. So
All right.
98% of the time we're not going on long trips. There was this funny story where my wife was at the neighborhood pool, and a gal who, they had two daughters, same ages as our daughters, and so she asked, how far does a Tesla go on a charge? And my wife asked her what's the furthest you go when you're going on a long trip? And the woman immediately started laughing because she actually they don't go on long trips. So their family must live in Indiana. So they're not driving anywhere on long trips. So if they go anywhere, they're flying. So she started laughing at herself with how ridiculous it was. Um, uh, Omar with Whole Mars, he had this great statistic recently where he asked AI, like, how long does a typical gas stop take?
Oh,
And they estimate about 20 minutes. So you're driving to the gas station. It's about 5 minutes of fill up, and then you're driving from the gas station. And you also have to track it. So you got to be arsed to track it. But then he tallied up how much time is that in a year, and it is 17 hours. And that's a lot more time than you're going to lose on the couple of long trips you do in a given year by having to charge along the highway with your Tesla or whatever. But
yes.
I'll add this before you interject: is I prefer the diaper to the catheter.
Very good. We'll put down in the links below some brand recommendations, perhaps there from Bradford. Well, yeah, I love driving across the country, and I've been traveling this country in my Teslas for 7 years, and
Oh,
it's fantastic. And sure, there's range anxiety in some places, and I live in the West, so I remember in 2019 driving up through Wyoming, Idaho, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana. And
mm.
at that point, there were 0 superchargers in North Dakota. There was 1 supercharger in Montana, and there
Well,
was one.
how far did you go in North Dakota? That's
I
a
didn't
joke.
go. Right, right. Oh, it's because you have to go all the way. Right. No, that was a fun trip for us. And so
Mhm.
at that time, but now, man, these chargers, even out here in the West, every 100 miles, there's 1 supercharger or more. So I'm a big fan of the supercharger network. I don't want a Lucid. Well, my partner, my life partner, Angela, her nickname is Sapphire.
Mhm.
And so she kind of got interested. She said, "Oh, Lucid is
Mhm.
making a Sapphire. Am I going to get one
Yeah.
of those?" I said,
Mhm.
"Well, yeah, let's see. How much is it?"
Mhm.
It's $249,000 for a Lucid electric sedan. And so I didn't have to say no. I didn't have to give my recommendation. She says, "Yeah,
Mhm.
that's pretty ridiculous." As for,
A
what did you
limited
say?
edition.
It is. Yeah, I think they're a limited existence company. I mean, it'll be a collector's item after they go out of business or they're totally taken over by the Saudis, depending on what you believe about Lucid. But yeah, that's great range. They've got great technology. A lot of people think that Lucid should stop building cars and just license their technology to other
Mhm.
manufacturers. And that sounds like a good plan. It's a little disconcerting if you invest in Lucid and the former CEO is saying the best course of action may be to stop selling cars. But I won't try to run Lucid's company for them. They can do what they want.
Mhm.
I'm not
Wise
a Lucid
words.
investor, are you?
I am not. I don't invest in zeros.
Right, right. We agree.
Got a divide by zero error. All right. So America Party, we're going to talk a little bit about that. I don't know which graphic is first. All right. So we all think we're independent. I think when Elon first did the poll, people were saying uh, that 80% wanted the America Party. They thought they were in the middle. So I think 80% thinks they're in the middle. So Farzad is sharing a stat of the U.S. being independent as far as how people consider themselves, whether Democrat, Republican, or independent, but that when it push comes to shove, it's not independents that are in Congress or libertarians. And we see the three independent senators or swing ones or whatever, and we see the one in the House. That's what it's showing us. Um, when push comes to shove, it's the parties. So I think it's pretty evident that what Elon is going to do with the American Party is he's going to work mainly in the primaries at first, and he's going to try to get his candidates in the primaries, um, and so they'll either be in a Republican or Democrat primary. So if they win the primary, then when it comes to the general election, that they'll be Republican or Democrat. So they won't show up on the general election ballot as independent. I think that's going to be the first path forward. It may not work, but Elon's going to try it anyways. I believed back when the divorce happened with Trump and Elon that Elon was serious. Are you surprised that Elon's serious about this?
I don't know that Elon is serious about this.
Okay.
I think right now, the first thing we saw the morning after was a form that had been filled out to file for the America's Party to begin.
Mm-hmm.
All this official form. Well, the form was not legit. It was faked. And so I'm asking you, I'm not on top of this. Is the America's Party officially founded, or is Elon still poking around like he does? How many times have we seen this before? Should I buy Twitter? Yes or no? I will abide by this poll. Then he owns Twitter. He changes it to X. Should I step down as the CEO of X? I will abide by this poll. Well, okay. So he ran a poll on X, and that gives him information. And when you're making business decisions, you want all the information you can have. You don't want any surprises. And I tend to believe that Elon is savvy, and he will get all of the information and he'll know all of the answers possible before he goes ahead full steam. So this could be a beautiful thought experiment, or it could be something he legitimately thinks needs to happen. We've seen politicians and pundits pop up everywhere to tell him how he's wrong. I'm not here to tell Elon how he's wrong, but I'm curious to see what the next steps are for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out and what the reaction from the Republicans and Democrats is going to be. Maybe Republicans and Democrats start to work, they end up working together to go around the American Party.
What? Now you're saying outrageous things.
So you'll have this where senators and representatives, they want to bring home bacon to their home state. So what you do is you give them something to vote for. So like, we're going to give you this thing for your state. It's going to be this big batch of money for some big employer in your state or something like that. This happens all the time, Landon. I don't think I'm saying anything new, right? And you give them an incentive to vote for the bill. And I think in general, politicians act like these toll keepers. So it's like old school highwaymen. Like, you want to keep going down this road, well, then you got to pay the toll, right? So the toll is to get my vote.
It seems like it to me too. So maybe the
Yeah.
problem is not that our senators and congressmen and women are bringing the ideas that we want them to bring in front of Congress,
Mm-hmm.
bills that we want to pass that are important to where we live at home. The problem seems to be that it's tied in with the Wyoming's senator's bill, and you can't just pick and choose. Where's the line item veto? Why do
Right.
we have to agree to all these things at once? I don't think it's political to say that we would not make these decisions in our household this way. What
Right.
if you had mom and dad and aunt and uncle and grandpa and grandma sitting around the living room? And we said, okay, where do we want to go on vacation? and everybody's got a different idea, and you can't do them all. But that seems to be what the BBB does. It says, oh no, we're either going to do everything or we're going to do nothing and shut down the government.
Mm.
So I think we should take a look at the line item veto again.
Yeah.
Let's be able to chop out some of the worst of the worst.
Mm. Over the last 6 months, I did like check out like, is there some kind of line item veto thing? And I think briefly we had it, or something like that, or but yeah, it's not a thing in the at the federal level. Um, so Jeff Lutz had something about the America Party. SpaceX valuation continuing to go up. So there was a share sale, so it's gone up from 350 billion to 400. Might pass Tesla eventually, but
Well,
we'll see.
we look at the way that the SpaceX program is developed, and it's fail fast, right?
Right.
Learn fast, because you don't learn much from success. You learn from failure. So we love that. But what do we get from the mainstream media when that happens? We get another Musk failure.
Mhm.
SpaceX is in turmoil.
Yeah.
So, no, we don't believe that. So I'm glad to hear that the people that are at the funding rounds that are buying stock as fast as they can, investing in SpaceX, I should say. Those are the people that I'm glad to see. They're not hesitating a bit, are they? They're not concerned. They don't think this is a boondoggle. They're the ones that believe, along with some of us, that in 2026 we're gonna try to shoot something towards Mars and see what happens.
Yeah, and the point you're raising about failure, where NASA got all screwed up, is the modus operandi, and that's a pretty big word for me
Is
here.
that Latin? Now we're bilingual here. It's Latin. Yes, very good.
Is to do it all on paper, to make it perfect on paper, get
Mhm.
all your engineering right without actually like trying it out. So you're doing all this and like spending a decade in development R&D before you actually test it in the real world. So what SpaceX does differently is they're willing to test it in the real world, get that real world data so they can see how it actually performs and learn from it and adjust it.
I think that we see in a lot of aspects of society, we see a pendulum that swings, and that's an ancient reference in and of itself. I don't know. Do you have a grandfather clock in your home? Well, that hangy down brass round thing, that's the pendulum. And it goes back and forth, marking time evenly. But we can
Mm.
use that as a metaphor to talk about our social mores and how do we feel about things in this country. And if you apply that to how we build rockets, man, the pendulum has swung. And NASA and SpaceX seem to be at opposite ends of that pendulum. What do? Do we just keep doing the math on paper, or do we go out there and try stuff? And so I think the pendulum may have swung too far for NASA, where they stopped trying stuff and just kept, well, look at Artemis. I'll say no more.
Yeah. Yeah, they ended up needing Russia, and then luckily SpaceX came through and offered them even lesser expensive launches.
We're all
Um,
proud to have American company, handling our space work. And NASA is very important too. Brilliant minds, decades and decades and decades of excellent research from NASA. So nobody is advocating to kick NASA to the curb. The more the merrier. The problems that we've got into is when we lose the spacefaring companies. We need the
yeah.
competition. SpaceX can't handle all the launches on their own. We need NASA, we need Europe, we need Japan and others to continue with their programs to help humanity into space.
Well, he is Landon of the West on X. Check him out. He's got a great sense of humor, super smart, and a great perspective. lots of mic drop moments on Spaces on X. I met Landon on Clubhouse a long
True.
time ago,
True.
2019 maybe, and that was like that was a predecessor to Spaces on Twitter, where we met in the Tesla universe on Clubhouse. I also met Xander Sky and many other people there. So it's great that we could do this here on YouTube. Have your YouTube debut. Curious what
It's
folks
that
think.
experience we had on Clubhouse was a lot of fun. Little did we know where we'd be in 2025, but I'm happy to still be here with you. And my shout out to the Rebellionaire group. Please follow the Rebellionaire account. And I get the best information from my colleagues on the Rebellionaire team. And I love it. I've met people all over the country that are rebellionaires, and they always bring their unique takes, their unique experiences. We all like to have fun, but when it comes down to the business aspects, we get really serious because we're not just investing in Tesla to try to make some money. We really believe in the company and in Elon Musk to get us there. So I love the Rebellionaire team. Bradford, thanks for having me on board.
So that's not an endorsement. So Landon is not a client of Rebellionaire, but he does have on X. He's got that Rebellionaire verified org badge, along with a bunch of great creators. Typically, Landon, he sidesteps politics pretty adeptly. He's good at that, and I love the experience that you share as like a former car dealer. But also your time advising people on investments.
Yes.
Psychology comes into things a lot, and that's something we try to pay attention to with Rebellionaire. So I'm Bradford Ferguson, and with that, I'm going to say bye for now.